Hello, everyone. We will begin our conference in 5 minutes. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 30th Population Census Conference. The Population Census Conference was first organized in 1971 and has continued to serve as a useful platform for advancing censuses in America, Asia, the Pacific, and beyond. This year marks the 30th conference, and we had originally planned to have the conference at Blue Sky Hotel in Ulaanbaatar City, Mongolia, in June of this year. However, it was postponed twice, firstly to September and finally to December, owing to the prevailing COVID-19 conditions. It was also inevitable to organize the conference virtually under many restrictions. It is regretful that the third wave of COVID-19 has just begun and Ulaanbaatar City is still under lockdown. This 30th Population Census Conference is co-hosted by the Association of National Census and Statistics Director of America, Asia, and the Pacific, known as ANGSTAP, the National Statistics Office of Mongolia, and Statistics Korea, which will provide 7 sessions over the next 3 days. We will use our website to receive questions and comments from the audience, which will be delivered to the chairs of the sessions. Without further ado, we invite you to the opening session of the 30th Population Census Conference. The first speaker of our opening session is Mr. Bayan Chimeg Chirkasuren, the president of ANGSTAP and acting chairperson of NSO Mongolia.
Хуамын толгын олон улсын 30 дугаар баг хуралд оролцож байгаа эрхэм хүндэд
Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to extend my warmest greetings to distinguished guests and delegates attending to the 30th Population Census Conference. On behalf of the National Statistics Office of Mongolia and myself, I would like to express sincere gratitude to Statistics Korea and Association of National Census and Statistics Directors of America, Asia, and the Pacific for the cooperation in organizing this conference. Mongolia has successfully conducted 11 population and housing censuses since 1918. The National Statistics Office of Mongolia conducted population and housing census last year and earlier this year, and it will be one of the issues of the conference on innovations in data collection, processing, and dissemination for the 2020 round of censuses. The 2020 population and housing census was successfully conducted in accordance with the Law on Statistics of Mongolia and the Law on Population and Housing Census, and the principles and recommendations for the Population and Housing Censuses Revision 3 published by the United Nations Statistical Commission. Conducting the censuses are organized in innovative ways using of high technical and technological advances allows us to process census data in a short period of time, to link with to geospatial information system, and to disseminate to the users in the most understandable form. Here I would like to present some of innovative methods and technologies used by National Statistics Office of Mongolia for following censuses. The 2010 population and housing census was conducted within the framework of an independent law, and Mongolian citizens living abroad for a long time were counted online. The 2015 mid-census was organized based on a registration system. The 2020 population and housing census used a combined method for data collection. As part of this census, the 2019 housing census was conducted using ArcGIS for collector and survey 123 programs. ArcGIS desktop was used through online for census planning at the zone and district levels, and ArcGIS web real-time was used through online for census monitoring. As you know, one of the missions of the National Statistics Office is to successfully conduct the population and housing census and disseminate the results to government, businesses, and the public. We have disseminated the result of the 2020 population and housing census in Mongolian and English in brief and detailed at the national, AMIC, and capital city levels. In addition, the census summary report has been translated into the traditional Mongolian script, which is attracting more users. The National Statistics Office of Mongolia is focusing on improving its census database using technical and technological development. Thematic research and analysis are being conducted based on census data. We hope that we will learn many interesting and innovative work experiences and approaches from the 30th Population Census Conference. Good luck to each and every participant at the conference, and thank you for your attention.
Та бүхэнд амжилт хүсье. Анхаарал тавьсанд баярлалаа.
Thank you, President Chulkasuren, for opening the stage for everyone. Next, we have Mr. Shinuk Kang, Commissioner of Statistics Korea, for his welcoming remarks.
Pleased to co-host the Statistics Population Census Conference with the National Statistics Office of Mongolia upon the request for technical support for this virtual conference. Firstly, on behalf of all participants, I'd like to offer my words of heartfelt appreciation to Acting Chairperson Chulkasuren of the National Statistics Office of Mongolia, as well as to all its members for preparing for this conference. In addition, I'd like to thank all participants from the Americas, Asia, and the Pacific region. The first population census conference was held in 1971 at the East-West Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. In 1991, UNSTAB was established in Hawaii, and the EWC took on the role of Secretariat of the association. In 2013, Statistics Korea took over the role of the UNSTAB Secretariat and has been hosting the conference every 2 years. During the past 29 population census conference, we have dealt with various topics, including survey method, data collection, data processing, and dissemination. Each country has conducted censuses in an effective manner and shared its views and experiences concerning the ways to use the census practically in national policy making. We were able to contribute to the development of population census by exchanging information among the member countries and introducing new methods. From October 15 to November 18, Statistics Korea carried out a 12% sample survey for its 2020 population and housing census. In spite of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were able to safely complete the survey with special care for disease control and prevention. The population and housing census in Korea is a hybrid census utilizing a register-based census and sample survey. The result of the register-based census have been released to the public every year since 2015, while the sample survey for 12% of the population is being conducted on a 5-year cycle. In addition, for this year's census, we added various methods such as mobile phones, tablets, and telephones to the existing internet surveys, creating an across-the-border electronic survey system. For this statistics conference, we will host a video conference from Wednesday, December 2nd to Friday, December 4th, and hold discussion under the topic of innovative data collection, processing, and dissemination for the 2020 round of censuses. During the period of COVID-19 pandemic, there surely will be many changes in population censuses. At this conference, we hope that each country will improve their censuses by sharing country cases, latest trend of censuses, and strengthening cooperation between countries. Although we are holding this conference online, I hope that we will be able to meet in person at the next conference without masks. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kang, for sharing great information and insights. Next, we will invite Mr. Richard Viol-Steke, President of East West Center. Please welcome President Viol-Steke to the floor.
Good day and special live greetings to you all, and special greetings to my co-welcomers to this conference, is Bayang Chimug Chihasuran, the acting chairperson of the National Statistics Office of Mongolia, Dr. Kang Shin-wook, Commissioner of Statistics in Korea, Ms. Bogantia Huramatar, a member of the Mongolian Parliament, and all of you distinguished guests from national statistical offices and other institutions around the world. From here in Honolulu, a very hearty and welcome aloha. My name is Richard Volstek, and I am the president of the East West Center, located, of course, in Honolulu, Hawaii. And on behalf of the East West Center, I extend my warmest greetings to the Association of National Censuses and Statistics Directors for the Americas, Asia, and the Pacific. I thank you for your attendance at the 30th Population Census Conference. In 1971, the East West Center hosted the first Census Conference. I was a graduate student at the East West Center at that time, and I well remember the event. I also remember first becoming acquainted in the 1970s with Dr. Lee J. Cho, a renowned scholar on population and census studies, both at the University of Hawaii and at the East West Center. Dr. Cho, I am sorry to report, passed away last month. He was a major driver of international population and census studies and related conferences such as this. And I'm sure he joins us in spirit today. The NCSDAP was established and incorporated in 1991, so we are celebrating decades of genuine success. I am pleased that the East West Center had the honor of helping provide the impetus for forming a solid bridge across nations that for decades has built networks from the Americas, across Asia and the Pacific to share information on population and census statistics. Without any doubt, we will all remember the year 2020 because of the global impact of COVID-19. The pandemic has brought about huge challenges in our daily lives, as well as in our working and research environment. Moreover, as we see today, the pandemic has also had a profound impact on how we hold international events. I, for one, regret not being able to be at Ulaanbaatar for this meeting. We are witnessing, nevertheless, a rapid surge in demand for statistics and research that will help us overcome this crisis and determine policy priorities in both public and private sectors. This 30th Population Census Conference has served as a forum, again this year, for national consensus and statistical offices, national census and statistical offices, as well as other relevant regional organizations to gather together to share best practices and fresh ideas. Conferences in the past, and this one as well, have fostered communications and collaboration in the region and has enhanced the quality of statistical information on the world's population and its characteristics. At this conference, we have the opportunity to discuss challenges and ways to cooperate with experts from the international community during the pandemic environment. Not easy, but something that's absolutely essential for us to do. I am confident that each conference session will invite active engagement among the participants and stimulate in-depth discussion. This is a timely opportunity to share knowledge and experience, as well as to advance the quality of population censuses, even under trying conditions. I fully expect that the ANCSDAP community will continue to contribute to population statistics development in preparation for the post-pandemic era as well. On behalf of the East West Center, I want to thank you for for taking time to participate in this important conference. I wish each of you good health until we meet again. And next time, I do hope that it will be face-to-face. Thank you and mahalo.
Thank you, President Vilstek, for joining us today to share nice history of the conference and inspirational remarks. Next, we have Ms. Burgantuya Kribatar, who is a member of the Mongolian Parliament. Please welcome Ms. Kribatar to the floor.
The 30th Population Census Conference. On behalf of the Parliament of Mongolia and myself, let me extend my sincere greetings to all of you who are attending this conference and wish you success. The directors of the ANCSDAP has been focusing on strengthening cooperation between national censuses and statistical organizations across the world in collecting and analyzing detailed information on population and their characteristics. And we're very grateful for the close cooperation between ANCSDAP and the Statistics Office of Mongolia. The National Statistics Office of Mongolia has extensive experience in successfully hosting the 20th Population Census Conference in 2002 and 26th Population Census Conference in 2013 in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. I'm pleased to note that the 30th International Conference on Innovations in Data Collection, Processing and Dissemination for the 2020 round of census is a timely and important event, especially in this time of lockdown and pandemic. For that, we attach high importance. The population and housing census provides the basic information for scientifically based analysis and research on the development, consistent implementation, and monitoring of appropriate government policies and programs on the social, economic, demographic, and human development issues. Meanwhile, there is a demand to create more detailed information from year to year. As a result, more countries use innovative methods for conducting their censuses in an efficient manner. For example, countries are linking the census data to Geographic Information System, GIS, to make it more accessible to users. In this regard, I'm pleased to note that your efforts and contribution will be invaluable in implementing initiatives to strengthen the capacity of countries for collecting, processing, analysis, and dissemination of the population data. I'm confident that the conference will make a valuable contribution to addressing the challenges facing the national statistical system and statistical agencies, and will be a historic step in the cooperation between statistical agencies of participant countries. Best of luck with the conference again, and thank you all for your attention.
Many thanks to Congresswoman for sharing her interest in this topic and for joining us today. And we're sorry for some technical troubles in connecting to some of the speakers. I hope your kind and generous understanding. This concludes the opening session of the 30th Population Census Conference. Before moving to session 1, I have a couple of housekeeping announcements. First, we do not have official breaks within or between sessions unless the conference adjourns for the day. There are 7 discussion sessions over 3 days, and each session will be composed of 2 or 3 presentations, followed by Q&A, which will be moderated by a session chair. For those of you who are connected with us on conference website, please use the question and comment section in this webpage, which is located underneath the video. The Secretariat will collect and deliver your questions and comments to each session chair, who is delegated to address selected questions and remarks. Today, we have 2 sessions ahead of us, each of which will last for an hour and a half. The upcoming session 1, titled Data Collection, Administration Records, Fieldwork, will be chaired by Mr. Oliver Fisher, Assistant Division Chief in the U.S. Census Bureau. He's a trained demographer and has provided technical guidance to over 50 countries in various aspects of census and survey implementation, including questionnaire design, data collection, editing, tabulation, analysis, and dissemination. Mr. Fisher, you have the floor until 10:30 p.m. in New York time. Mr. Fisher, are you connected with us?
I believe I am now. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you. There was some miscommunication, so the session will start at 11 p.m. in New York time. So we have 10 minutes a prompt to break, if it's all right for everyone.
마이크 테스트, 마이크 테스트, 마이크 테스트 합니다. 마이크 테스트 합니다.
I'm sorry, we did the mic test. Can you see me well?
Yes, I can see.
Yeah, and could you turn on your video, please?
Sure.
Yes, now I can see you. Now you are hearing well, and then you can watch me as well, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, okay. So we will start the session in 4 minutes. Our host will help you to start the session, Mr. Oliver.
How many minutes for my presentation?
You are the last presenter for our session, so
I think it's 25 minutes each.
yes, right. So like 40 minutes after the session starts. You must.
Is there a way to, in the case that some presentations are running long, is there a way to subtly kind of inform the presenters that their time is approaching?
Yes, you can just speak to our presenter while their presentation. And
Okay.
for our all the speakers, please make sure your presentation finished in 24 minutes.
All right.
Okay. I will turn off my audio and then video. Our host will start the session. Our host will start the session.
Very well.
Welcome back, everyone, for session one. This upcoming session one is titled Data Collection, Administration Records Field Work, and will last until 10:30 p.m. in New York time. The chair is Mr. Oliver Fisher. And Mr. Fisher, without any ado, you can take the floor until 10:30 p.m. in New York time. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all ANCSTAP participants. It is my honor to welcome you to the first session of the 30th Population Census Conference. My name is Oliver Fisher, and I'm head of the Census Bureau's international programs. I'd like to start by thanking the conference organizers, specifically the National Statistical Office Mongolia, Statistics Korea, and ANCSTAP, for being so well organized and preparing this conference under these unique circumstances. The title of this session is Data Collection, Administrative Records, Fieldwork. We have selected 3 very interesting presentations offering diverse viewpoints on data collection. Our first presentation will provide an overview of the register-based census in Korea. The second presentation will discuss the multimodal data collection approach that will be implemented in the 2021 Population and Housing Census of Hong Kong, China. The third and final presentation will provide an overview of both the multimodal data collection approach that was implemented during the 2019 Census of Vietnam, and also focus on some of the lessons learned. Before I hand the floor over to the presenters, I wanted to go over and cover some ground rules. The presenters have been asked to keep their presentations to 24 minutes. There will be a question and answer section following the 3 presentations. While the question and answer period will take place after the presentations, we do encourage you to write questions on the chat feature box throughout the session. We will be monitoring this chat box throughout the session. We'll then compile the questions and address them at the end of the session. I do encourage you to send questions using this chat feature. Now that we've covered the ground rules, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Young-gil Lim currently serves as the Deputy Director of the Population Census Division of Statistics Korea. He has held this position since 2017. Previously, Mr. Lim served as the Deputy Director of the Register-Based Census Division of Statistics Korea. The title of his presentation is Register-Based Census in Korea. Mr. Lim, the floor is yours.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I'm Young-il Lim, in charge of planning and analysis of register-based census in the Population Census Division of Statistics Korea. I'm pleased to make a presentation on register-based census utilizing Korean's administrative data at the 30th Population Census Conference. Statistics Korea started the preparation of register-based census utilizing administrative data in 2007 and has produced and announced the register-based census every year since 2016. Here is the table of contents of today's presentation, overview and environments of census in Korea, production and result of the register-based census and 2020 census. The population census of Korea and housing census started in 1925 and 1960, respectively. The census has been carried out every 5 years for the year that ends with 0 and 5. The reference date is November 1st, and combined census was carried out in 2015 for the first time. We used multimodal data collection in 2015 for the long form. About half of response was complete on an internet form. The other half was interviewed by enumerators with a paper form. In Korea, the census data is used as the basis for major national policies and activities in the private sector. It is also used for secondary or analysis statistics such as population and household projection, low birth rate, and aging index. Finally, it is used as 220 sample frames out of 292 household surveys. This slide shows the census environment in Korea when Korea prepared for race-based census. The situation is in most countries may be similar. First one is the deterioration of survey environments due to elevated awareness on privacy, increase of one-person households and the aged. It has become difficult to meet with respondents and non-response rate has increased. The current situation has become worse. In addition, the cost of census continues to increase, putting more burden on securing budgets. In fact, the cost of census has increased by about 50% for cycle in the past. If the same trend continues, the cost of 2015 census is estimated to be about $235.8 billion. It was difficult to explain the rapid social changes with the result of census that is conducted every 5 years. This figure shows the changes in the satisfaction level of user with the 2010 census result. As time passes, satisfaction level decreased. This is the statistic direction of 2015 census. It was decided to conduct a register-based census every year for items that can be replaced by administrative data such as age, sex, and housing type, and conduct 20% sample survey every 5 years for items which cannot be replaced by administrative data such as commuting and child care. In order to prepare to register-based census, we reviewed the case of other countries, conducted research with academic experts to review ratio estimation and regression estimation, and developed rich regression estimation methodology. But statistical methodologies had more disadvantages than advantages. At the end of 2013, Korea decided to create a register-based census by supplementing administrative data instead of applying the rich regression estimation methodology. We prepared 4 strategies through SWOT analysis to implement register-based census. The 4 strategies are the collection of administrative data, standardization and coding of data, and producing the census data by using administrative data, public approval, and personal data protection. State Korea had prepared register-based census for around 8 years since 2007. The register-based census was introduced through planning the process, data collection, studying the methodology, and doing file survey. In 2019, register-based census data was announced at the end of August 2020. Register-based census goes through 5 production steps. First, data acquisition, and second, standardizing and coding data. Third, linking data. Fourth, compiling statistics, and last, publishing results. We make effort to protect personal information securely and build public support. Now let's look at each step in more details. First, we obtain 25 kinds of administrative data, such as resident register, building register, family relations register act, from 14 agencies. College register was obtained directly from 400 colleges and universities in cooperation with the Ministry of Education. A legal basis was prepared for the acquisition of such administrative data, the National Statistics Act 2007 provided the basis for the receipt of administrative data. But the Act was revised in 2014 for require specific legal basis from the Superior Court when obtaining the Family Relations Register. In Korea, there is a 13-digit resident registration number, and the linkage of resident registration number information is a very severe problem. So when obtaining administrative data, we converted the 13-digit number into 64-digit virtual numbers, and then convert it again into 10-digit number for personal information for protection. There are three ways to obtain administrative data. The data that is obtained periodically, like immigration data, is the administrative data, administrative information relay system. And the data that is obtained from various agents with small data, such as carriage register, is the administrative data collection system. And data that is large capacity and this security, like resident register, are directly received through secure media material. This is the first chart of address standardization. We checked for error in administrative data obtained and standardized the administrative data in various address formats. The table below is an example of address standardization. It is the standardization of building name and detailed address of the building. This slide is the administrative data integration management system. The system implements and manages administrative data related to the economic, agriculture, and fisheries, as well as register-based census. The register-based census part is red lines. It is a major function of the register-based census system, standardized addresses, data aggregation, data mapping, and quality control. It creates population, household, and housing databases. Data rankings have two main purposes. One is to figure out how and why administrative data differ from census and to link administrative data with the census data. Second, it is intended to create a register-based census by linking it with administrative data. The matching key for population is virtual number, date of birth, sex, and address, and that for housing is address and building number. This table is the result of the linking the administrative data with the census data. The linkage rate was between 60% and 70% until 2009. But the 2010 data increased the linkage rate to 96.96% using data from the Family Relations Register. In the Eunmyeondong level, which is the minimum administrative area, 92.1% of the population in which the census residents and the administrative data are registered were the same areas. By supplementing the data with administrative data, including carriage register and building register, to ranking rate increased to 95.2%. This showed how to produce race-based census. We use a unique identification number of each person household and dwelling to link records from different administrative register. Specifically, data are created based on resident register for Korean population in the resident registered population. Those living in other countries are excluded utilizing immigration data. Population born after November 1st is excluded, and those born before November 1st but registered as birth delay are included. Foreign population is based on the foreigner register and the foreign national Koreans register residing in Korea. This is registered linked with immigration data, but foreigners living outside of Korea are excluded. Households are based on the residence register excluding population living abroad. People living in dormitories and social facilities are grouped into one household called group facility household. And those in the military and prison are excluded from household. In addition, based on the linkage between 2010 census and administrative data, household data are created by applying household integration and separate logic. This slide shows the integration of the household at the same address but separated. In the residence register, it is separated into 3 households, but when it is linked with the family relations register data, it is found that the members of the household are relatives, so we integrate it into one household. Housing data is produced based on publicly announced housing price data and supplemented by building register and census data. In the 2014 and 2019, address canvassing confirmed all housing and supplemented the data with extinct housing and housing not registered in administrative data. Let me explain the result of the register-based census. Due to the low birth rate and aging population, the number of people under 14 is decreasing, and the number of people aging 65 old is increasing. In 2017, the number of people aged between 15 and 64 decreased for the first time. In 2015, the number of one-person households increased to more than two-person household and has been on the rise ever since. The share of the one-person household in 2019 was 30.2%. For housing type, the number of apartment is on the increase, while in the number of detached houses is on the decrease. In 2019, apartments accounted for 62.3% of the total housing. Let me explain the advantage of register-based census. The register-based census reduced the respondents' burden. In 2015 and 2020, only 20% of households were surveyed. Also, we increased data quality, produced basic data every year, and offer new statistics such as multicultural household and single mothers utilizing administrative data. The cost of census has increased by half. It was estimated to be $2.47 billion for 2015. Census using the existing method, but $1.14 billion were spent, including 2014 address canvassing, as we use race-based census. This is the concept of 2020 round census. Race-based census was conducted every year from 2016 to 2018. In 2019, address canvassing was conducted and it was incorporated into 2019 race-based census. Based on this 2020 race-based census was and 20% sample survey were conducted simultaneously. This is the 20% sample survey method. Compared with 2015, we added the channel for smartphone and telephone survey as a non-face-to-face method, and tablet pitch option was added as a face-to-face method. Respondents can participate in online survey by entering the participation number through internet, portal site, or QR code. The participation numbers has been sent to each household by mail. Here are the 2020 census survey items. For race-based census, 3 items in blue were added, and the total numbers of items was 16. For 20% sample survey, there are 45 items in the table and 10 items which were linked with administrative data. The reason for one-person household and pet items in red were added newly for the first time. New technology were applied to 2020 census. Smartphone, telephone, and the tablet pitch were adapted as a channel for survey. Enumerators could visit the household community as enumerators can check their location with GIS-based GPS. In addition, we will apply AI to data processing for the first time. This slide shows the real-time situation and locations identification using electronic map. This is the 2020 census schedules. 20% sample survey has been completed, and we are collecting administrative data for race-based census. Data will be supplemented by linking collected administrative data and 20% sample survey data. The result of race-based census will be released in July 2021, and sample survey will be released from September to December 2021. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for the very interesting presentation, Mr. Lim. We all can clearly learn a good deal from the vast experience Statistics Korea has in implementing register-based censuses. Thank you again. As a reminder, I want to encourage those of you who have questions to please type them in the chat box so that we can have a fruitful conversation after the 3 presentations. You can find this chat box by scrolling down below the session 3, the day 3, session 6 closing session, where it says write your question or comment. We have received a few questions, but I encourage any of you to have questions to continue to post them through the chat box. Our second presentation takes us to Hong Kong, China. The presenter is Ho Kai Tang, who currently serves as a statistician in the Census and Statistics Department in Hong Kong. The title of his presentation is Technology Application in Multimodal Data Collection for the 2021 Population Census in Hong Kong. Mr. Hokai, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you. Can anyone see the screen? Okay, thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I am Tan Hokai from Census and Statistics Department of Hong Kong. And as introduced, I am, excuse me, sorry. And as introduced by Mr. Fisher, I'm now working on, I'm a statistician from the Census and Department of Hong Kong, and I'm now working on the project of the Statistics Department. And it's my honor to give a presentation today on the topic technology application in multimodal data collection for the 2021 population census in Hong Kong. So let's start. This presentation will start with background information on Hong Kong population census. Then we will walk through the multimodal data collection approach and technology application therein. And then we'll dedicate our last part on data security and resilient measures. Okay, let's start with the background information. In Hong Kong, we conduct a population census every 10 years, and the population by census in the middle of the intercensual period, which means 5 years of the population census. The last population census and by census were conducted in 2011 and 2016 respectively. And our coming population census will be conducted in 2021. In the 2021 population census, about 90% of the households in Hong Kong will be enumerated through a short-form questionnaire, which inquires only basic demographic characteristics.
Mr. Tang?
Age.
Mr. Tang, I'm very sorry for interruption. Can you share your screen, your presentation screen, please?
Sorry.
No problem. We see your face, but we don't see your presentation.
Excuse me. Wait a minute. Excuse me. Can anyone see the screen?
Yes, if you can extend the screen or make it full screen, that would be more helpful. That's great.
Yes, yeah. Wait a minute, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, can anyone see it?
Yes, we see the screen fine.
Yes, thank you. Maybe let me quickly show the previous two screens for better understanding. Here's the background. We'll go through the background first, and then we will go through the technology application in the multimodal data collection approach, and then finally the data resilience and security measures. And the background, I probably skip it because I have explained it verbally previously. Okay, let's continue with our basic design of the 2021 population census. And in short, we will have a short-form questionnaire for 90% of households, which asks the simple questions like age, sex, ethnicity, etc. And then for the remaining 10% of households, we will conduct in a long-form questionnaire, which not only asks the age, sex, we will also ask socioeconomic characteristics, including the education attainment, economic statuses, etc. And we will have a total of around 46 data topics. Okay, when formulating the overall design and technology requirements, we have considered our own population and graphical features. We are a highly IT literate and yet aging population, and living in a small household in a highly dense developed area. This slide has shown some features of our populations. And as indicated in the bottom right corner, you can see that in Hong Kong, we are really living in a very dense place, over 6,000 persons per square kilometers. And for the most dense district, is almost 10 times of the average. Okay, so we can see that for each characteristic demands or favor a different kind of data collection approach. So naturally, it leads us to a multi-data collection approach in our census. So here are the four modes that we will adopt. First one is the honor questionnaire, and then the face-to-face interviews via the mobile tablets, and then the telephone interview, and finally the postal returns. So how does it actually work out? Our population census will adopt a two-phase multimodal data collection approach over a 43 days period. In the first phase, which lasts for 25 days, the household will be encouraged to conduct the self-enumerations. It includes the online questionnaire, and for the short-form questionnaire, we will also encourage them to use the postal returns. And then if the households need help from our census officer, they can also contact us for the Census Service Center for telephone interviews. It's especially helpful for those elderly households in Hong Kong. And we start with these modes because they are the most cost-effective and the most suitable for today's world with COVID-19 pandemic. Thus, these modes will be heavily promoted in our population campaign. Then we will go to the second phase, enumerators will visit the households that have not completed questionnaire to conduct face-to-face interview using mobile tablets. That said, online questionnaire, postal returns, and telephone interviews will still be available to the households. This second phase will last for another 80 minutes until 4 of August 2021. Okay, here is our online questionnaire. As mentioned, our goal is to boost the self-enumeration as much as possible, particularly for the online questionnaire. So we need to make sure our online questionnaire fits our citizens' usage habits. Particularly due to the COVID-19 pandemic, our citizens are even more used to handle their daily needs and operations via mobile phones, such as ordering food and shopping online. Thus, mobile friendliness is very important to our online questionnaire. Therefore, we adopt a responsive web design so that the user interface will be adjusted automatically across devices. Users can use desktop and mobile devices to complete the questionnaires as they like. Of course, the basic functions of adjusting font size and languages are there to help the respondent. As shown in the screen from the left side is the desktop version, so-called the desktop version because actually the responsive web design mode is depending on the screen size. So as long as the screen is large, is wide enough, you can use the left version. And you can see the standard, the language font size adjust panel is on the right upper corner, okay? And then the right is the mobile version. And you can see one of the example of the differences is that the grid on the left, which is more useful in the desktop widescreen version, will be adjusted to to be filled in one by one in the mobile version on the right. Okay. Furthermore, we will provide QR code on the householder letters so that the householders can just scan them to visit our website with the login details pre-filled. Of course, as stated earlier, the household may choose to key in the website link direct to log in. For either way, no installation or software or application is required. Okay, this shows some other features of the online questionnaire. Let's start with the login logout functions. Upon accessing the system with the login details, we will require the household to set up an account. With this account, the household can log in and log out anytime they like. All previously filled information has been saved so that the household can just continue as they left last time. This feature is particularly useful for our business case because we have long form here in Hong Kong, and long form household may not be able to complete the questionnaire for the entire household in one go. And then we have instance validation. This instance validation can help both to ensure the data quality and to minimize the need to follow up with the household. So it is a win-win solution to both us and the respondent. And then we have code search function, auto questionnaire branching, and I button. As for the code search, we will use on the questions including industry of work, occupation of work, place of study, and place of residence 5 years ago. So the respondent just have to answer the question we required, and we will search the code for them. And then auto question branching is self-explanatory, but it is really useful for our case because our long form is a bit complicated, and quite a lot of questions need complicated branchings with multiple conditions of the previous questions. And then the I button, the information button, so the respondent can just click on it and see supplementary information. And then a separate account function. Separate account function is a bit special. First of all, our questionnaire is to be filled in household basis. But if for some household members which are with higher privacy needs, they may need a separate account so that they can complete their own questionnaire without being seen by the householder or other household members, then they can apply a separate account online. And both for the separate account and the other account management work, such as reset password and then or even account reactivation because they really cannot retrieve their password, they can completely self-help to manage their accounts. And then we have two more features which are helpful. For the first is the reminder SMS and email. And then another one is the appointment booking. The respondent can use the account to make appointment for the face-to-face interview. They can also write down special requests there so that our enumerator can prepare better for the face-to-face interview. Okay, that's all for the online questionnaire. And then we go to the face-to-face interview with the mobile tablet. Making use of mobile tablet in face-to-face interview is also a key strategy for our work. To improve the efficiency of our fieldwork, we use mobile tablet which are provided with assignment lists and various types of maps. The assignment list is based on the latest enumeration progress and can be instantly updated, whereas the maps are supported by our digital mapping system. Moreover, in Hong Kong, we often have to deal with the situation of split quarters. In this case, the enumerators can take photos with the mobile tablet and upload them for chief enumerator's confirmation. And to distribute the workload to enumerator evenly, the assignments will be allocated to enumerators just before the start of the second phase to take into account the self-enumeration progress in the first phase, as well as other workload factors such as walking distance, enumeration efforts, etc. When needed, the chief enumerators can also reallocate the assignment within their own teams. As for the enumeration data collected from other channels, they will also pass to they can also be downloaded by the mobile tablets, so the enumerators can continue on the previous answers provided by the enumerators through other channels. And this screen shows the features, other features of the mobile tablets. And the middle one and the right one is actually the code search function and the validations, which we also had in the online questionnaire. And the left one is the grid design. And this grid design is really useful for our face-to-face interview because in some situations, some respondents may not, or may say they may prefer to answer one question for the entire so one by one. So this grid design is really flexible for us. Okay, then the remaining two modes, the telephone interview and the postal questionnaire. Let's start from the left one, the telephone interviews. For the telephone interview system, we are also supporting it with a dedicated telephone interview and inquiry system. And this system offers a lot of flexibility. Apart from the standard ones, such as to conduct interview, of course, and then to answer the inquiries, we can also follow up the partially enumerated case with this system by dialing out to the respondent who provided the questionnaire. We also can provide step-by-step guidance on self-enumeration by assessing the household's latest questionnaire position. Of course, we also have the code search and the instant validation functions for this system. And then the final one, the postal questionnaire. This mode is quite traditional, but we still use it because it is highly effective for the short form. We employ data capturing services with OMR and ICR technology so that the data on the postal return can be uploaded to the database daily. To encourage the respondent to self-enumerate, prepaid envelope is provided along the questionnaire in the household mailing set. As you may be aware, with so many data collection modes running at the same time, data synchronization is very important. So to achieve this, we use a centralized database for all the data collection systems. This diagram briefly describes the process, and those on the upper parts of the diagrams have been described earlier. And on the bottom part, the AFMS and the DPCS, These are another two systems connected to the computer, the common database. And the DPCS, as told by its name, is the data processing and checking system. This basically do the QC works and the follow-up works with more stringent validation rules, and here handles rare case of data conflicts. And the left-hand side one, the AFMS, the Assignment and Fieldwork Management System, as told by its name, manage the assignment and fieldwork progresses. And it also governs the creation of new assignments, manage the assignment allocations and statuses, and monitor the fieldwork progress, etc. It's worth mentioning that we can start our follow-up work and quality assurance works as early as the 1st of July, so that we can finish them at the mid-August, just a half month after the end of the data collection period. This time frame allows us to progress to the data processing stage in the second half of 2021 and provide summary result in February 2022. Okay, so let's move to the last part, the data security and the resilient measures. Data security is very important to win the respondents' trust in our work. So we will make sure the latest proven IT solutions are in place to safeguard the data security. So basically, we will first, of course, adopt the existing IT solutions provided by our government, but we will also implement our own solutions. For example, the center one, the anti-DDoS, the network intrusion prevention system, and multi-layer firewall will be in place, and we will also adopt internationally recognized security standard in our data transcription and also all other data transmission. And we will also conduct security risk assessment and audit, and also privacy impact assessment to make sure our workflow is up to standard in these two areas. And we will have the IT support from our Office of the Government Chief Information Officer of the government throughout the project. And then especially for the mobile tablet, if a mobile tablet is stolen or lost, the data stored in the mobile tablet can be remotely wrapped by a centralized mobile data device management system, which is called MDM. When the tablet is logged on and connected to the server again. As a further measures, we will implement a time bomb to the tablet, so that for a specific period of time, if the mobile tablet has not connected to our server, we will remotely wrap the data therein. But a key part of the data security also lies beyond the technology application, which is from the people. So we will ensure that we have sufficient training and daily reminder for our staff, especially the innovators, to make sure that their security awareness will be up to standard. Okay, this diagram shows the framework of the data security of the online securities, of the online questionnaire system. The web security we have explained earlier. We have anti-DDoS firewall, and then the network intrusion prevention system. And we simply say we will encrypt all the data transfer, both within our own system and the connection with the user. And a point which is worth to mention is that in the user computers, they do not have to store any data there. All the data are stored in our government cloud, and all the data stored are transcribed, and we have data access control and the standard login password and auto logout to protect the data security. And then this is the mobile questionnaire system's data security, and most of the parts have been covered earlier. But as for our mobile tablet, an additional point is that we monitor any unauthorized access from hardware channel to the mobile tablet. We also prevent and control the installation of unauthorized applications. And these two are the additional measures on top of those I mentioned earlier. And then this is the final part, we see the measures. Simply say, for our online questionnaire system, we adopt the active-active approach, which means that when, in case there are disasters, so that our first computer site that is malfunction, the second site will take over all web applications in real time to ensure no interruption of the service to the public. Then we will, for the rest, we will use the active-passive approach with recovery time objective set at 24 hours. To reduce the complexity and avoid frequent two-way data synchronization, the database server is active in the primary site only, with near to real-time synchronization to the second site. Okay. And then, that's all of my presentation. And to conclude, in this presentation, we have highlighted the technology application in the multimodal data collection approach. And apart from those applications which improved service level and viewer efficiency, we have also highlighted the data security measures and resilient measures approach. I would like to conclude by emphasizing that the application can actually be applied to every aspect of the census operation, not only the data collection. And meanwhile, my colleague, Mr. Chen Chiho, will be presenting in his session on data dissemination with topic online interactive data dissemination system for the population census and biocensus in Hong Kong. So that's all of my presentation, and thank you very much.
Great, many thanks for the insightful presentation, Tang Hokai. It was interesting for me to hear. It was interesting for me to hear more about the plans for the Hong Kong census and how the multiple modes are organized in such a format to increase the ease of completing the census for the public. So thank you again. As a reminder,
Thank you.
Oh, of course. As a reminder, if any of the participants have questions, I ask that you please type them in the chat window below the presentation screen. So we'll now transition to our third and final presentation, which is from Nguyen Van Hong.
Yeah.
Mr. Van Hong.
Yeah.
Can you say it?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah,
So
can you hear me clearly?
very clearly. And Mr. Van Hong.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great. Mr. Van Hong is the principal statistician at the Department of Population and Labor Statistics of the General Statistical Office of Vietnam. Mr. Van Hong was involved in both the 2009 and the 2019 population housing census of Vietnam, having worked on questionnaire design, enumerator and supervisor manual development, data processing, and also the report development. Mr. Van Hong, the virtual floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah. So can you see my presentation?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Okay. So we start now. I please start my presentation. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hưng from Vietnam. And on behalf of Department of Population and Labor Statistics CSO Vietnam, I will do my presentation diversification for collecting information of population and housing census 2019 in Vietnam. Sau đó không nhảy giờ Phúc ơi. Wait minute. Cái slide nó không chạy nữa nào. Maybe because of internet, my slide is not moving. It's slowly. Okay. So my presentation consists of four parts: introduction, method of collecting information the population and housing census 2019, some challenges and benefits from census, and lesson learned. Vietnam is a country located in the Southeast Asia, and we share border with China in the north, and share border with Laos in the northwest, and with Cambodia in the southwest. To the east is to the east is Gulf of Tonkin and its ocean, and to the south is Thailand Gulf. Population size in Vietnam is 96.2 million person at the 1st April 2009. And population growth rate is 1.14% on average for period 2009-2019, equivalent to approximate 1 million person per year. But population growth rate is expected to decrease in the next years. For urban population account for 34.4%, and population density in the 2019 is 90% square kilometer. It's a little high compared to many countries in the world. Now I'm talking about something about population and housing census 2019 in Vietnam. The population and housing census in Vietnam is conducted every 10 years, and the first census conducted in 1979, just 4 years after the country is united. And the last census we do in the 2019 census conducted at the time point 0 hour the 1st April to 2019. Time for information collection is 20 days. Start from the 1st April to 25 April 2019. And in the 2019 census, we use about more than 125,000 enumerators and 21.6 thousand team leaders and supervisors. The 2019 census is the first time we apply strongly information technology, and we use a method of collecting information copy combined with the cell enumeration web form and PAPI. So I will present more detail about copy, web form, and PAPI in some next slides. There are two types of questionnaire to be used in the 2019 census: short form and long form questionnaires. For short form is used for all household in country, and the long form is used for census sample survey about 40% of EA and 9% of household, 30 household per 1 EA. And web form only apply for short form questionnaire. About copy, so copy is a form of face-to-face interview. Copy is a major form of information collection of the 2019 census. Almost 100% of total household nationwide are interviewed by copy. And PAPI and web form just account for very small rate, just only 0.1% for both. We already use copy for some sample survey, include pilot survey for before we conduct 2019 census. So we have some experience for for use copy for census. As I presented the 2009 census, we use more than 125,000 enumerator and about 21.6 thousand team leader and supervisor. One of criteria for recruit the enumerator is they should have smartphone, iOS or Android software accepted, and they will use their smartphone for field work, and they get some money for rent their phones. One enumerator will undertake 2 EA, and each EA has about 120 households on average. About web form, actually it's the first time to be used in Vietnam Statistics Office, and also it's the first time we use in the 2019 census. Also, it is not used for any sample survey until the 2019 census, and we have a very few experience about this. Web form is a form of self-enumerated question on a questionnaire on the census website, and web form implemented in the first 7 days during field work, parallel with CAPI and PAPI. Yeah, so household head or other member of household who will self-enumerate information online. But for 2020, we will use web form for enterprise survey based on some experience get from 2019 census. Only household though register to use web form during household list were provided with an account and password for logging onto the census information system. And account and password is sent to household head phone or email 1 day before time point of census. Some household although they register web form, but after 7 days, first 7 days, they don't answer question on census website. So household register will be deleted. No, whole household register web form will be deleted in copy household list. But after the first 7 days of information collecting, non-response household in web form will be automatically moved in copy list, and this household will be interviewed by copy. About PAPI, PAPI is the form of the traditional information connection we use for some census before, whereby the enumerator visit to household and conduct a face-to-face interview and record information on a printed paper-based questionnaire. PAPI is applied with some EA which cannot recruit in the enumerator, have a smartphone, don't have smartphone for connecting information by copy. So only few use PAPI in 2019 census in Vietnam, and whole databases from copy, web form, and PAPI will be integrated in zero database. So now I'm talking about some result of 2009 census. Because of improve some new method like copy web form for 2009 census, so GSO in Vietnam disseminated the preliminary result at 11 July 2019. It also is the World Population Day, and just 2 months after complete fieldwork of the census. And the complete result is disseminated 20 December 2009. After about 8 months, we complete fieldwork of census. And now we are disseminating 4 monographs in-depth analysis, and we pretend in the end of this month we disseminating SRB monograph, fertility, migration, and population projection. There are some challenges and benefits we got from the 2009 census. So, although ZSO Vietnam conducts some survey, sample survey by copy before 2019 census, including some pilot survey of 2009 census, but it admits that ZSO Vietnam has a limited experience in using copy and web form for data collection, especially for the survey with very large scale as the census. Applying copy for the census require very good IT infrastructure, whereas the IT infrastructure of ZSO is still low. So ZSO coordinated with Vietnam Post and Telecommunication Group, VNPT. So VNPT supply a server and data link and other IT device for the census. And for web form, although there are more people have a smartphone and computer with internet, but only few households want to answer question on by internet because some reasons. They worry about information security, and other reason relate to propaganda about benefit of the form of West form. And other reason is a person though do household list need to introduce and guide to household more clearly about web form, so that they are satisfied to register to do this. And one more thing is the accurate level of information connected from web form is some challenges. And about some benefit we got from 2019 census we got a preliminary result is very early, 1 year early than before. And because of noise checking by copy program combined with GPS to monitor enumerator to help to reduce workload and increase accuracy of data collected. And we release burden from paper questionnaire, and we save the money. And we activate for apply, copy, and web form for 2009 census. We total we spent 65 million USD for 2009 census, and we estimate of saving about 36.6 million USD. And now the next part is some lesson learned from census. Actually, it's to successful of 2009 census. I want to mention about high attempt of the government and ZSO leader for data revolution in the context of Industry 4.0 is going on in the world. And one more thing is the involvement of the whole political system from center to local level in Vietnam to the census. Because if it only CSO, it is very difficult to conduct population census is successful if only CSO. And another one is the careful preparing all steps for the census, especially for IT infrastructure, include backup system if main system is broken down and attacked. The pilots should be conducted in different population areas to test recruitment, identify and fix problems, and make sure copy running smoothly and both Android and iOS. Yeah, there are something I present. It's my presentation today. Yeah, thank you for the listen.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Hung, for the overview of the Census of Vietnam. It was very well presented. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you to all three presenters in this session. We are now going to transition to the question and answer component of our session. The window is still open to ask questions, so please, for participants who continue to have questions, don't hold back. Please do type your questions in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. At this point, we have 4 questions. The first question is directed to Mr. Lim, and it comes from our colleague, Kabamalan. He states, I would think that register-based data should be more or less complete. If so, is there a certain completeness threshold for this methodology to work? Mr. Lim, are you able to respond to that question?
Okay. Thank you for interesting questions. Every census six completeness, but census may have over coverage or under coverage. Race-based census seems to be more accurate than the previous traditional method in terms of coverage. It may vary depending on countries, but in case of Korea, each registration key is unique and there is no duplication or omission. So it could be considered accurate, however, in terms of regions. We supplemented the data with the college data, dormitory data acts, but registered residents and accuracy residents may not be identical. So it can leave errors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And while we have you, the second question is also directed to you, Mr. Lim. This question comes from our colleague Chow. The question is whether there are any inconsistency for data item among different administrative data sets, And if yes, how do you resolve this inconsistency?
Thank you. This is a question about inconsistency among different data set. The priority may be different depending on which items you are referring to. For example, if date of birth from resident registration data and family relations data, register data, are different, we prioritize from resident register data. Also, we resident on resident registration data and dormitory resident register data is different. We refer to address from dormitory resident list data. We prioritize different data according to the accuracy of each administrative data set. About the constancy, we may accurate data that did not exist last year. In this case, we check with the agency who provide this administrative data about how the agency acquired this data and decide whether to include this data or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also saw we have two questions for Mr. Tang Ho Kai. The first is, could you please explain how the separate account function in the online form works? So the question is, will a new reference number be issued? Can you apply for a separate account when you're halfway through the survey?
Okay, thank you for the questions. Basically speaking, as for the application of the separate account, it can be done after setting up the main account. And in the main account, there is a grid form as shown in the presentation. And within the grid, you can, there's a selection box for the account holder to set whether for the individual household member who needs separate account, you can just simply click the box and then key in the maybe mobile phone or email address to us so that we can send the login for that new account to that individual household members. And that as for the household reference number, whether there will be a new number to be exact, a household reference number is assigned to each household. And as for that particular household members who need a separate account, we will have a separate account number. Explicitly saying is that for the main account holder, the account number will be set at 01 by default, and then the remaining separate accounts will be starting from 02, 03, etc. And as for the question of whether the separate account can be applied halfway through the generation, the account can actually be applied anytime during the generation progress. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that answer. The next question is also for you, and it's more about the grid design that you had discussed. The question is, so for the grid design in field work, how does it apply to the whole, or the question is, does it apply to the entire form or just the household form? And how will instant validation or error message be shown in the grid design?
Thank you for this great question because it allowed me to elaborate more on this. The design we have carefully decided for which part of the questionnaire we can apply the grid design. And actually, really, we do not apply the grid design for the entire questionnaire, and we just apply to those suitable parts, which is the basic questionnaire, the basic questions of the household, which we expect that those questions can be answered by the household account owner. And so basically they are the questions of the short form questionnaires plus some questions on the demographic characteristics, including ethnicity and nationality and etc. As for the questions, more complicated ones on the, say, economic characteristics, we will not adopt the grid design on that. And as for the validations of the grid design, we apply them when we turn to the next page of the grid. When we go to the next page, we will check the consistency within the grid, and then, of course, the validation errors will be prompt at that moment. I would like to supplement that. To conclude, I can say that the grid design is useful for questions which we don't require complicated branching and skipping, and for questions that we expect can be answered by the household account owner. And for complicated ones, we will not apply grid. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Hong, the next question is for you. The question is about the security of the data when the enumerators are using their own smart device. So the question is, could you please share the experience on how to secure the data by using enumerator mobiles? Mr. Hong, can you hear me?
So my part for answer question.
Yes. So
I already see about the question on the chat box. Right?
So the question is about how, if you could just share the experience about how you and your office were able to secure the data that was being captured by enumerators who use their own mobile phones.
Yeah. Actually, it's a difficult question, and actually when every day during time for information connection, enumerator should subscribe data to the server, and after 7 days after complete fieldwork, this data in the enumerator mobile is automatic disappear from the smartphone of enumerator, and it's so that enumerator cannot share data for everyone, and it's for data security. I think that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And Teng Ho Kai, we have another question for you. This one has to do with the duration of the enumeration period, which was 43 days, I believe, and that seems quite long. So the question is whether there were any problems for respondents to respond based on the key reference date if it was such a long time ago. So the question posed included an example. So for example, were there any survey items on about the past month or about the past week?
thank you for the questions. First of all, let's talk about the question first. As for the key reference dates, first of all, we have census moments, of course, and the census moment will be at the 30th of June. And then as for the particular questions which require a reference time point, which will be the one which are on the economic characteristics, the reference week will be the 1 week before the census moment. And as for the apparently long census reference moment, census period, actually the period isn't that. Of course, it's apparently long, but actually we notify the household from about at the late June, starting from the late June, and actually all the households will be notified within the last week of June, and so actually they can start the enumeration from that moment, and thus we believe that there shall be no problem for the long, apparently long reference period.
Thank you. So I don't believe there are any other questions coming in. Let me give it another minute or so in the case we see a few additional, because we do have a couple of additional minutes before the end of this session.
Hello, one more thing I want to add, one more about my question.
Please.
Yeah, because before I mentioned for conduct 2009 census, not only CZO in Vietnam, it's a cooperation between CZO, Ministry of Planning, and some military, other military. And before we conduct the census, we cooperate with the Ministry of Information System to check security of CAPI program before we apply for census. Yeah, I just ask one more.
Great, thank you for that additional note. All right. Well, I think that's it. So I first wanted to thank the presenters for the excellent and informative presentations and also the thoughtful responses to the questions. And thank you also to the participants for your questions and your involvement. You know, while we may not be together in person, it certainly is important for us to continue to communicate and collaborate. And it makes it a bit more difficult in this virtual realm, but I was very pleased with the amount of involvement by the participants as well, so thank you. This now closes the first session of this conference. Thank you all. I look forward to a continued productive conference and to hopefully further engagement about technical issues for upcoming censuses, and then hopefully to see each other in person once again, hopefully in the next conference. So thank you everyone very much. I appreciate your time, your attention, and your participation.
Thank you, Professor, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for your attention and participation into session 1. Special thanks go to Mr. Fisher, Mr. Lim, Mr. Tang, and Mr. Hung for their valuable contribution and giving us some time to take a break. Talking about break, we will take a quick impromptu break until our next session's speakers and presenters are ready. And to make sure that you don't miss any of the session 2, I recommend you to be back by 12:30 or in 5 minutes. But we will give you another announcement when all the speakers and presenters are ready. So we'll see you in 5 minutes. Thank you all for your cooperation.
Yeah, could you zoom your camera because I can see your face. It's really too far. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll fix it, okay?
Yep. Yes, I can see you.
Hello, everyone. The moderator is back. We are waiting for the session chair for session 2, and it will take another couple of minutes. So I thank you for your patience and cooperation. Thank you very much.
Start slightly late.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Now we are set, so we will start the session now.
Welcome back, everyone. Now we're ready to move on to session 2, the last one for today, which is scheduled to end at 1 p.m. in Ulaanbaatar, 2 p.m. in Korea, 10:30 a.m. in Delhi, India. Mr. Sanjay of the Registrar General and Census Commissioner of India will be chairing this session. Ms. Sanjay has been serving as the Additional Registrar General since October 2016, looking after the National Population Register, census operation, digitization, and data analyses. With that, let me invite Mr. Sanjay to begin session 2, titled 22 Round Censuses in the Era of COVID-19.
So thank you. Good morning from India, because India is 9 a.m. in the morning. So the first presentation will be by Y. Chia. She is the Senior Manager, Singapore Department of Statistics. She is from Household Survey and Expenditure Statistics. The Census of Population 2020, she is already involved in conducting the census, and she is also involved in other household related surveys. So she will make the presentation, the first presentation. So I welcome Tia and invite her to make a presentation. So she will make a presentation in 25 minutes. So thank you. Tia may start the presentation.
First, thanks to National Statistics Office of Mongolia and Statistics Korea for organizing the 30th Population Census Conference. For those who are joining in today, a very good day to all. I am Xia Wai-in with the Singapore Census Office and will share on Singapore's experience in conducting our Census of Population 2020 amid the current COVID-19 pandemic. So to provide a brief context, Singapore is a small city-state. We have a population of 5.69 million as of June 2020. The population census is conducted once in 10 years in Singapore. On census taking, we have adopted a register-based approach since year 2000. This means that administrative data from different sources are used to provide basic demographic information for the whole population. In-depth information that are not already available from admin data are then captured through a large-scale sample survey. So, the actual Census 2020 survey is only conducted for some 150,000 households. The survey data collection was launched on 4th February, while the census reference date is 30th June 2020. This ties in with the reference date for the mid-year population estimates from our admin registers. So for the census data collection, a multi-mode strategy is applied to cater to the varied profile and needs of the population while balancing resource considerations. We adopted a tri-model approach for the 2020 census. This comprises of online self-enumeration, where respondents can submit their census through the internet on their own, computer-assisted telephone interview, where they can call the census hotline to have their survey completed over the phone, and face-to-face interview with interviewers visiting their homes. Since online submission was introduced in 2000, we have observed a steady increase in the take-up with growing internet penetration and greater acceptance in performing transactions online. More than 60% have completed their census online in 2020. So for our census office, online submission reduces the manpower resources that would otherwise be needed to reach out to households It also helps to reach out to the difficult-to-reach group who may not be at home or stay in gated communities. For respondents, it is a convenient platform to submit their returns directly without having to go through a third party. Available round the clock, there is flexibility to respond as and when you desire. Over time, more self-help features have been put in place to minimize touch points and human intervention, and to make online submission as seamless and contactless as possible. For example, respondents can reset their passwords, request for reminders, or prevent other household members from accessing their forms, all online, without going through any census officer. Respondents reported to be working will have to be assigned an industrial or occupational code according to their reported company name or job titles and main tasks and duties at work. To reduce the manpower resources that would otherwise be required for the data processing team to manually assign the code, respondents can now select from a list of registered companies or suggested occupations in a drop-down when entering their job titles. The selection would then be automatically coded back in. Similarly, for address of workplace location, suggestions will be displayed in street name and building name depending on respondents' text input. We can make a selection from the drop-down, which would then be automatically coded back in. An additional feature is that information such as block, street name, and building name are automatically displayed once respondents enter a valid postal code. So this serves as a check and allows respondents to confirm that provided details are accurate. For Census 2020, we also implemented a virtual assistant on our submission portal to allow users to self-help on frequently asked questions and reduce enquiry calls to the hotline. Much of these helped alleviate the resource demands and keep responses coming in amid the COVID situation. Despite the high online take-up, there is still about one-third of the population who is either not able or unwilling to switch to online submission. Alternative channels are provided for respondents who are less tech-savvy, may not be literate, or are simply unmotivated to respond. These are deemed necessary to elicit good response. The call center reaches out to those who did not complete their returns online by a stipulated date. Besides being a data collection mode, it is also critical in supporting the online submission and respondents' feedback. Face-to-face interviews were to reach out to those who do not respond online and cannot be contacted by phone. These includes those who have no contact numbers and those who are unwilling to participate. It is also where we ascertain invalid addresses. However, the extent of face-to-face visits had been kept very limited for the Census 2020 due to COVID-19. To understand the impact of the COVID-19 on our census, let's first take a look at how the COVID situation has developed in Singapore. In Singapore, the first confirmed COVID case was reported on 23rd January 2020. At the beginning, cases were mostly imported with no evidence of community spread. Hence, measures taken were on temperature taking and travel restrictions for travelers with travel history to higher risk regions. By mid-March, with a few locally transmitted clusters identified, more safe distancing measures were announced, including some at the workplace. While Singapore did not go into a full lockdown, we implemented a nationwide circuit breaker from 7 April to 2nd June. During this period, all persons were to stay home except those working in essential services and when they need to get essential goods and services. Even during the immediate period after 2nd June, only selected workplaces resumed activities. Further reopening only happened from 19 June, with more workplaces and retail opening up. The situation and measures have implications on census operations. As mentioned earlier, the census collection was launched on 4 February. This meant that we started the collection exercise less than 2 weeks after the first case was reported, and very shortly before Singapore raised its disease outbreak response system condition from yellow to orange. It corresponded to a period where there was public uncertainty. For the bulk of our operations since, we have to maneuver and adjust to the various and regular updates to the government's response to the virus. We suspended the census face-to-face visits from 15 February, 11 days after the launch, and arranged for visits by appointment only and on request basis. This was in view of potential public resistance and public health risk when community cases and local transmission clusters started to surface. As an added precautionary measure to protect our officers, respondents were asked to make a health and travel declaration prior to these visits from early March. With few follow-up calls, progress for each batch stagnated after about 1 month. A third reminder letter on top of the planned advance notification letter and 2 reminder letters was therefore added to boost response. Aligning to nationwide measures and recommendations for workplaces, the Census Office ran on a split team arrangement from 29 March and converted to a full work-from-home arrangement from 7 April when the circuit breaker started. Full call and data processing operations resumed in split team arrangement from 21st June after the Phase 2 reopening. Field visits resumed. Field visits resumed on 19 July. As of 26 October, we managed to complete the census survey for about 96% of the sample. While internet submission and hotline continue to be operational throughout, call operations were scaled down significantly, with a small pool of officers working from home during the circuit breaker period. Instead of a fully functional call center with automated outbound dialing system to handle voluminous calls and phone appointments, the team adapted with call routing to mobile phones to receive calls and make manual calls out. Field work was halted and internet submission was promoted to encourage online participation. While we adapted to continue survey operations during circuit breaker, it posed some challenges. With a reduced pool of officers, the team was unable to cope with the volume of calls, which spiked after every batch of letter dispatch. This resulted in more callers being placed on the call waiting queue. Respondents were also skeptical when receiving calls from mobile numbers. To verify the caller's identity, respondents would call the census hotline, and this further contributed to the increase in call volume. With the pandemic ongoing, it was also more difficult to recruit, train, and retain workers, resulting in staffing for all teams not filled as planned. Nonetheless, these challenges will present valuable lessons for the planning and implementation of future household surveys, as well as opportunities to review and streamline work processes. Due to the work suspension and lower manpower over the circuit breaker period, the timeline for census data processing was compressed. More needed to be done with lesser time and manpower. As explained earlier, occupations would be automatically coded when respondents select a job title with sufficient details from the drop-down list. However, some respondents choose to retain their job title in text entry if they are unable to find a suitable selection from the drop-down list. For such records, they will be automatically assigned a relevant SSOC via batch coding, if the rules can be met. Coding with intervention is only done for records that cannot be auto-assigned an SSOC due to some inconsistencies. Records which were not successfully assigned an SSOC in batch coding will go through a new machine learning process using the neural network model. Leveraging machine learning with model trained using records from previous household surveys, the system will process and assign codes to each record. These suggested codes will be automatically accepted if the confidence level is high. For those with reasonable confidence level, assigned codes will be displayed as recommendations for data processing officers to assess for acceptance or reassignment. For the remaining records with low confidence level, the records will be assigned from manual coding. By incorporating machine learning in census data processing work, the need for human coding has been reduced, with an estimated saving of more than 4,500 man-hours. At the same time, measures are put in place to ensure that there is intervention necessary to ensure data quality. So to summarize, I will share on a few key learning points and areas that help mitigate the impact of COVID. An important feature of the Census 2020, which we have used and improvised over the years, is the splitting of the sample into batches for rollout. The main purpose to achieve is to manage the caseload on the internet server, call traffic to the hotline, and minimize exposure risk for individual households on the internet. This design of staggering cases into batches provided flexibility for our office to adjust the release dates and sizes of each batch as a tool to make operational adjustments in response to the evolving situation and measures. For example, when we were to scale back call operations, a smaller batch was released to cushion the effect of reduced manpower. Coupling with this, the leverage on analytics to monitor the progress of individual batches and follow up with adjustments, in particular on the intensity of reminder letters to the households. In the chart to the right, we can see a step down in responses for selected batches. This is due to the suspension of the reminder letters during the circuit breaker period, and it demonstrates the effectiveness of such reminders. In addition, the operating context of our census also helped. As a start, the Census 2020 launch was planned 1 month earlier than the schedule for the previous Census 2010 to cater for unforeseen circumstances. In part, this was learning from the last census, where we had to make contingency plans for H1N1, though such plans did not need to be activated then. The earlier launch provided some time buffer after the main operations were scaled down for more than 2 months. As illustrated earlier, online submission is an important mode of collection for Singapore. With more than 60% of the households taking to online submission, a large proportion of responses continue to flow in during the circuit breaker. Importantly, given that we are operating a register-based census, data on population estimates are compiled from admin records, and population data for 2020 continue to be produced on schedule, even though the detailed breakdown are still being processed. As part of the enhancement to data processing, administrative data are used for consistency checks, and machine learning is applied to the coding of selected data. This helps with resource constraints in data processing. Last but not least, census publicity has also been a key success factor in soliciting cooperation. In 2020, more digital platforms, including YouTube video and web advertisements, are used on top of the usual radio, newspaper, and out-of-home publicity. Together, the multi-pronged approach helps secure a good response of about 96% for our census without major disruptions amidst the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Jia. So it was a nice presentation, and she covered how the Singapore has taken forward the census during the COVID impact also, and the response in the online mode by through self-enumeration of the individuals has risen drastically from the past through very good advertisement and publicity measures. So we all should learn how the Singapore has taken it forward during COVID-19 effect and the census conduct. So the next presentation is from Mr. Gurai Naviyandi. He is head of Demographic Statistics Preparation Sections, BPS Statistics Indonesia. He is making a presentation on the Indonesian Population Census 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. So Mr. Navyendi, kindly start your presentation.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Sanjay. I will share screen first. Okay. Good day, everyone. On this occasion, I will present topic Indonesian Population Census 2020 during COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia. There are 4 outlines that I will present to you. First time, I will talking about the general overview of our population census. Second time, I will talking about initial plan, how we design our population census, methodology, data collection modes, timeline, and etc. Third, I will talking about our adjustment plan for 2020 population census since pandemic COVID-19 hit Indonesia in March 2020. The last time, I will talking about the reflection, the implementation of the population census during pandemic. So, Indonesia was held the 2020 population census, which the 7th population census to be held. It's according with the mandate of law 1997 concerning statistic that said that BPS Statistik Indonesia is obligated to hold the population census at least once in 10 years. Additionally, the implementation of the population census was also recommended by United Nations through principle and recommendation for population and housing census. The another legal base for the implementation of population census in Indonesia are Presidential Decree number 39, 2019 about One Data Indonesia, and Presidential Decree number 62, 2019 about National Acceleration Strategy Population Administration for Development of Vital Statistics in Indonesia. This is according with the objective of the Indonesian population census that to get one Indonesian population data. Because you know, in Indonesia, we have two sources of population data. First, data registration from Ministry of Home Affairs, and second one is data from population census. So, from this population census, we will combine two data source to be one population data. Same as several countries in the world, Indonesia also face challenge and obstacle in carrying out census, especially if we carry out census using traditional methods. Some of them such as high cost and quality enumerator, population dynamic and diversity, respondent burden and response rates, very long data processing. Data tend to be out of date because commonly it can only be done at interval 5 or 10 years. In Indonesia, we have data in 10 years. So in 2020, Indonesia began to change the population census method from using traditional method to combined method that using administrative data as the basis of our population census. The several reason for Indonesia to carry out of a combined method population census. First, this is appropriate to UN recommendation that the census method can shift from traditional methods, full canvassing, to the register-based census. The second one, registration data in Indonesia is not fully cover the whole of population. Therefore, considering data source condition in Indonesia that I mentioned before, This is recommended to use combined method with using the registration data as a basis the population census implementation. It could be the best opportunity for our Ministry of Home Affairs together with Statistik Indonesia to improve the quality of registration data in Indonesia. The another reason, if we compare the census method of several countries in the world, many countries have switched census mode in last 10 years. For the example, in Asia, in 2010, we were only 16 countries that implement a combined method for population census. However, by 2020, there are 77 countries in Asia have declared that use a combined method for their population census. There were 22 questions asked on in Indonesian population census, especially in short form. We have 12 variables that same as the variable in registration data from Ministry of Home Affairs, such as name, personal ID, family serial number, address, sex, place and date of birth, nationality, religion, relationship status on family, marital status, education, and job. And then, this is the initial plan of Indonesian Population Census 2020 before pandemic. Who as the target? The target is all population living or will be living in Indonesia for at least 1 year. Where population census will be held? In Indonesia territory, including Indonesian representative or mission who are living abroad. When we conducted Indonesian population census into phase. Phase 1 is full enumeration that using short form questionnaire. Phase 2 is in-depth survey using long form that will be held in 2021. In phase 1, we conduct census in 2 times. First is online census on 15 February until 31 March 2020. And second one, face-to-face interviewing for 1 month at July 2020. And then there are 3 modes of our data collection. First is KW, computer-aided web interviewing, that using on online census. Second one, KP, computer-assisted personal interviewing to face-to-face interviewing. And the last one is PEPI. PEPI is a pencil and paper interviewing that we use to face-to-face interviewing too. There are 2 stages of business process in the implementation of 2020 Indonesian population census field. First is coordination and consolidation with the team from other ministry or agency, coordination between head office, regional office, and etc. Second one, preparation of population database. We prepare database from population register data, Ministry of Home Affairs. Third, online population census that we have on 15 February until 31 March 2020. Fourth, online population census. Fourth, general statistical population register based on a result of the online census. So, based on the online census, we make the statistical population register. And the step 5 until 7, in the 5th stage, we do the verification of statistical population register. In this stage, our enumerator verify the existence of the resident together with the head of the local environment. And the 6th stage, the field verification, where the enumerator drone check into the field to do sweeping and ensure that no population is overlooked in the data. And the last stage, in the field enumeration, our enumerator conducted interviews to families who had not conducted the online census using the short form questionnaire. So this is the our process business in managing the population census 2020. This is our president, Mr. Joko Widodo, supporting for our population census. He said that the key success of population census is the participation of all elements of the nation. This is proof that the 2020 population census coordination and consolidation are being carried out properly. So, population census 2020 in Indonesia is the first time for Indonesia conducted online census. The result is very good because the response rates of our population census by census online, we can reach 19.5% people who take the online census. Why we using the online census? There are some reasons we need online census. First, facilitating all persons who will to participate in the census in easier way. Increase mobility of the population and issue privacy. Second one, introducing a new culture society, especially awareness the importance of data, start with individual awareness. The third, involving all elements of the society in the data collection process, not only as the object of the data collection. The fourth, effort to increase technology literacy in a society. And the last, availability of connectivity up to the village level. Because we get the information from Ministry of Communication, the connectivity signal in Indonesia good than last year before. But there are some challenges of the online census implementation. The first, data security and privacy issue, or personal data transaction that has an impact, people refuse to participate. Second one, limitation or unstable internet access in some area. Then, good gadget literacy by the enumerator, but mostly used for social media on the WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, and etc. And the last, low public awareness of the importance of the data. No direct benefit is felt when following the census. This is our challenge by implement the online census in population census 2020. This is the several campaigns method for our population census. First, we use media placement like television, radio, printed media, online media, theater, outdoor media, public transportation, and etc. Then we do ground activity like BPS or Statistik Indonesia goes to campus, Car Free Day, office campaign, and etc. And we do the digital activity like socialization by Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, spokesperson, and etc. The other side, we also collaborate to academic and university to support the implementation of 2020 population census. And then the pandemic comes. In 20 January 2020, World Health Organization declared that coronavirus disease as international health emergency. And then in 11 March 2020, we declare coronavirus disease as a pandemic. Indonesia responds this issue through National Disaster Management Agency declared that the status of specific disaster emergency condition due COVID-19 pandemics extend to 29 May 2020. uh, in this time, we are in the middle of conducting online census when WHO declared COVID-19 as pandemic. Some challenge to COVID-19 outbreak. First is physical distancing, which limits space and work. Second one, design of large-scale social restriction or PSBB zone, which affect all employees must work from home and not allowed to go to the field. And the last one, uncertainty about when is the outbreak will be end. The other side, we were also faced with budget cut for the census for handling COVID-19. In the response of handling COVID-19, the Indonesian government decided to implement budget efficiency, including for census activity. You can see that our budgeting for census decreased from $278 million to be $69 million. As a response to the COVID-19 pandemic, so we adoption the new habits such as adjustment to BPS business process. Second one, optimization of information technology communication. And the last one, we implementation of flexi work and work from home. So the adjust plan to maintain the health and safety of enumerator and respondent, census enumerator use additional equipment such as mask, face shield, glove, hand sanitizer, and apply physical distancing when meeting respondent. We also publish a handbook of health protocol for census and survey by COVID-19 Task Force or BNPB in Indonesia. The book consists of standard health protocol from the recruitment of field officer, training, field operation, up to data processing, receiving basic document. Face shield, glove, and we make the social distancing. When we have standard protocol, we think a new process business for carry out with our census. On a very limited time and budget, with stringent health protocol, we conducted testing for our new business process at 10 provinces in Aceh, Lampung, Banten, Kalimantan Barat, Jakarta, Jawa Barat, Bali, Nusa Tenggara, Gorontalo, Papua. So we do the testing for our new business process for our census. This is the new plan for Indonesian population census 2020 since pandemic. About who and where still same, but there is no difference in census target. But there are some adjustment in a census period. When we extend the online census period from just 1/2 a month to the 3.5 months until 29 May 2020. In the design before, we only do the online census until 21 March 2020 because we get the pandemic. So the online census we do until 29 May 2020. The other ones, we also change mode of data collection from KP and PP to drop off and pick up or DOPU to minimize face-to-face frequency with respondents. In this process business, there are some adjustments, especially in census online. and field activity that we did in September. In the design before, we do the field activity in July because we have a COVID-19 pandemic, so we do it in September. This is the new governance of Population Census 2020. We adjust in model of learning, independent learning through national TV, radio, and YouTube. The second one, street health protocol, rapid test for all field officer screening. All field officer equipment with personal protective equipment that I mentioned before, such as face mask, face shield, disposable glove, and hand sanitizer. And the third, implementation of physical distancing. And the last one, we also implementing zoning of data collection model. This is the data collection model we adjust by religion. In zone 1, we using drop up and pick up document. In zone 2, we only using a population register verification. In zone 3, we using the population register verification and we do interview for all respondents in zone 3. Why we do this? In zone 3, the pandemic is not to be held. But in zone 1 and zone 2, the pandemic is increased in every week. Especially in red zone area that high risk COVID-19, there are some procedure when head of the neighbor or society reject census officer. Officers are not advised to visit the house or respondent door to door, but information regarding the whereabouts of the resident is confirmed through the head of the neighbor. So, based on the new government of Population Census 2020, there is some impacts of adjustment on the output. In zone 1 and zone 3, there are no change. The output is no change. But in zone 2, we cannot get the data variable from short form questionnaire, such as housing characteristic and individual characteristic. It's because in zone 2, we do not using the short form to interview the respondents. How about our strategy? First, redesign the questionnaire interviewing self-filling. Second one, with simplification of business process, reducing face-to-face interaction time. Self-enumeration, we do self-enumeration, drop-off and pick-up questionnaire. The third, simplify field operation, recruiting less census taker. The fourth, we make optimal use of administrative data and use standard statistical technique for data imputation. Because that I mentioned before, in zone 2, we cannot get the data about the hosting characteristic and individual characteristic. So, for the optimization, in the plan, we will use the administrative data to complete the data data census. And the last one, strong coordination with all government up to village level. Now, this is the summary how the pandemic changed our design of the census. In initial plan, the online population census that we planned at the 15 February until 31 March changed to 15 February until 29 May 2020. That we have total response for the online census about 51.36 million people or 19.05% that people participate in online census. In field enumeration, we changed the period from July to September. Interviewing in all regions, we changed to be 3 zones. Zone 1, we only do the ground check and drop a pick up. In zone 2, we only do the ground check. In zone 3, we do the ground check and interview. Only zone 3, that there is no difference between the initial plan and adjusted plan. Now, and then in a number of census taker, in initial plan, we will use a 400 enumerator, but because we have the budgeting efficiency, so the number of census taker decreased until 208 interviewer. The census taker will then increase. And about the face-to-face census taker training, in initial plan, we want to make training with face-to-face, but because there's a pandemic, we cannot do the face-to-face training, so we do the online distance training of or self-training. The impact is census taker knowledge very. Census taker knowledge will vary. And about the census taker equipment that I mentioned before, in initial plan, we only serve a fast back and stationary, but since pandemic, we add personal protective equipment like face mask, face shields, gloves, hand sanitizer, and we do a rapid test for all the enumerator. The impact is we need additional budget for implementing COVID-19 health protocol. So the reflection from our population census during pandemic, the first one, strong legal basis is must. It's important for us to make coordination and consolidation with the other ministry or other agency. The second one, safety is #1 priority. The third, monitoring progress is essential because in pandemic, many challenges to do the population census. And the fourth, testing new method business process should be carried before implementing new methods. 5, simplify business process, simplified output, reduce face-to-face interaction. And the last one, but not least, post-enumeration survey is mandatory as key indicator for the quality of census. As you know, census by using drop-off and pick-up document, the data quality that we can get or we can result not better than when we use face-to-face interviewing. So this is my presentation. I hope we can get some discussion from this meeting. Thank you. Time is yours, Mr. Sanjay.
Thank you, Navyendi. It was a nice presentation, and you explained nicely that how, in spite of budget constraint and COVID impact, the census was conducted in Indonesia. The first time online census was started, and about 20% people did self-enumerate, and we will take the question and answer in the last. So now I will request Deputy Director Statistics Bureau of Japan, Hidemain Sekino, to make a presentation on outline and current status of the census 2020 in Japan. So now the floor is to you, Mr. Sekino.
My name is Sekino Hidemine, and and I am in charge of the examination, study, and analysis of the Population Census Statistics Bureau of Japan. In Japan, the 2020 round of the population census has been conducted with the date of survey set as October 1st, 2020. The results will be summarized, examined, and tabulated from now on, and will be published in series from 2021 to 2022. Today, I would like to explain the outline and the state of the ongoing population census before the results thereof are summarized. During the period of this census, a serious event broke out throughout the world, namely the occurrence and pandemic of COVID-19. The impact of COVID-19 was grave also in Japan. Upon conducting the survey in such situation, countermeasures against the pandemic have been taken, as well as alterations made to some parts of the survey plan. I would also like to introduce some of these efforts. In Japan, the first population census was conducted in 1920. So this year's 21st population census is a centennial milestone. The 100 logo shown on the slide symbolizes this. Please take a look at slide 1. Before explaining the outline of this survey, I would first like to introduce you to the status of population in Japan, which is to be grasped by the population census. When the first population census was conducted 100 years ago, the population of Japan was about 56 million. It increased about 2.3 times to about 127 million in 2015. However, as can be seen in the changes of the increase-decrease rate, the population that had been increasing for a long time took a downward turn during the period from 2010 to 2015. And Japan has entered the era of population decline. We believe that the results of this year's survey, which will be summarized from now on, should attract great attention because they clarify the population trend of Japan from here onward. For your information, the extraordinarily high increase rate of 15.3% in 1950 was a result of the baby boom after the end of World War II. The increase rate was also high at 7.0% in 1975. This is because the baby boomer generation became parents and the number of births increased. And this is called the second baby boom. Please take a look at slide 2. The structure of population by sex and age is shown in what is known as the population pyramid. Blue is male and red is female. The population distribution showed a clear mountain shape in 1920, but in 1965, there is a large bulge in the younger generation generated by the baby boom. In 2015, there are two of those bulges, one representing the second baby boom. The significantly smaller population of the generation above the baby boomers is the impact of World War II. There is also a notable concavity in the generation over the second baby boomer generation. This is because of a unique custom in Japan, which regards women born in this particular year as a bad omen, resulting in very few births. Please take a look at slide 3. This chart illustrates the state of aging population in Japan. The population aging rate shows the ratio of those aged 65 and above among the total population. The rate, which was around 5% in 1920, has increased at an accelerating pace recently and reached 26.6% in 2020. Japan is 2015. Japan is one of the countries with the most aged society in the world. As seen above, with the acceleration of the declining birth rate and aging population, Japanese society is now entering the era of population decline. It can be said that the importance of the population census is becoming much greater in recent years for the formulation of appropriate policies based on such changes in social structure. Please take a look at slide 4. The population census is the survey of the largest scale and importance among official statistics in Japan. The 2020 round of the survey was conducted on October 1st this year. This slide shows the outline of the framework of the survey. Because the population is counted based on the place of one's permanent residence instead of the address of resident registration. Field research by enumerators is conducted through local public entities such as prefectures and municipalities. There are 3 ways to respond to the survey: via the internet, via mail, and directly by the enumerator. In all, survey method is self-enumeration. Please take a look at slide 5. Here, the 19 items surveyed in this year's population census are shown. In Japan, a major survey and a simplified survey with different number of surveyed items are held alternately every 5 years. This year is the turn of the major survey. Compared to the simplified survey, the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 15th items, namely duration of residency at the current domicile, place of 5 years previous residence, educational status such as in school or graduated, and means of transportation for going to work, school, respectively, are added. Because there is no mechanism to analyze and use integrated information on administrative records in Japan, understanding the detailed social and economic attribution in addition to the population counts through the population census is the only way to exhaustively understand the information for analyzing and population from multifaceted perspectives. It can be said that the population census is critical also from this point. Please take a look at slide 6. In slide 4, I have explained that there are 3 ways to respond to the census, namely via the internet, via mail, and directly by the enumerator. Among them, responding via the internet is not only efficient, but also can automatically detect inconsistencies in answers and items left blank when there is a response from the household to significantly reduce errors. Therefore, it is particularly being promoted. For the 2015 survey, ideas for responding via the internet were distributed first to households to accept responses via the internet, and then paper questionnaire sheets were distributed only to households where there were no responses for follow-up. However, this method limited the period of responding via the internet and also caused many problems due to the very complicated procedure to manage the respondent IDs. Thus, for this year's survey, IDs for responses via the internet and paper questionnaire sheets were distributed simultaneously to ensure smoother progress of the survey. Please take a look at slide 7. The survey can be responded to via the internet not only by using a PC, but also with a smartphone. Here, a sample of the responding screen for smartphones is shown. It is compatible with several languages, namely English, Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Spanish, and Portuguese, in addition to Japanese. It is designed that the responses can be completed in 10 minutes and is regarded highly among households as easy to respond to. Please take a look at slide 8. As for information on which method was actually taken by households, the final summary is yet to be made for this year. Therefore, I would like to show the ratio by each responding method in the 2015 survey. Internet accounted for 36.9%, mail accounted for 34.1%, and enumerator accounted for 29.0%. So each accounted for about 1/3. However, 13.1%, which means nearly half of the 29.0% by enumerator, are hearing investigations. Hearing is a method taken when responses could not be collected from the household due to absence, etc., and even after demand, by enumerators asking the number and sex of household members from neighbors, etc. This allows to achieve the 100% population count, which is the largest purpose of the population census. On the other hand, it cannot grasp the detailed attribution items that are asked in the questionnaire sheet. Therefore, an increase in hearing investigations results in a significant disadvantage of generating many unknown items in the tabulated results. The historical change in the ratio of hearing investigations is shown on bottom left. In recent years, the ratio is increasing each time the survey is conducted, causing a serious problem. Please take a look at slide 9. Because decreasing the number of hearing investigations was one of the major issues to be tackled for this year's survey. We confirmed the attributions of households that were covered by hearing investigations in the test survey conducted in the previous year of the actual survey. The results showed that there are more hearing investigations among younger households in terms of age, and among single-person households in terms of the number of household members. Based on this result, notification on the survey and public relation activities were reinforced upon this year's survey. Please take a look at slide 10. Also, it was planned to conduct the survey according to the outline as explained so far. There was the occurrence of COVID-19, which developed into a pandemic. Therefore, some special measures were taken in order to securely conduct the survey even under the influence of the pandemic. First, in order to prevent the occurrence and spread of the disease, thorough measures against infection were taken, such as ensuring that enumerators wear masks, and it was decided to adopt a non-contact survey method where the number of households and enumerators do not meet in person, according to the situation of the region. Explanation upon the distribution of questionnaire sheets was not given face-to-face, but was made through intercoms, and the documents were delivered by using mailboxes. For the collection of questionnaire sheets, contact was avoided as far as possible by strongly recommending response via the internet, where there is no contact between the enumerator and household. And as for cases where response via the internet was difficult, they were encouraged to respond via mail. Regions where the non-contact method was adopted accounted for 1,383 municipalities among 1,741, which is 79.4% of the total municipalities throughout Japan. Please take a look at slide 11. The occurrence and pandemic of COVID-19 had a significant impact also on securing enumerators who were essential for conducting the survey. Recruiting of enumerators is stagnating and faltering due to the pandemic. Against the scheduled mobilization of 700,000 enumerators throughout Japan, only about 600,000 had been secured even just before the start of the survey. Therefore, it was decided to change the survey plan to extend the survey period for 1 month according to the situations of the region, in order to ensure secure conduct of the survey even with a smaller number of enumerators. The survey period was extended in 153 municipalities, which accounts for 8.8% of the total municipalities. Also, although it is not shown in the slide, the period was also extended for the examination by municipalities after the collection of questionnaire sheets to resolve defects in them, according to the situations of the region. The examination period was extended in 799 municipalities, which accounts for 45.9% of the total municipalities. Please take a look at slide 12. with the implementation of countermeasures against COVID-19 as explained so far, the period for all the questionnaire seats being collected by the national government was protracted by about 2 months compared to the original schedule. Therefore, the period for the tabulation of survey results was postponed and the schedule for the publication of the results was changed. The timing for the preliminary counts of the population and households, which will be published earliest, will be postponed by 4 months, from February to June 2021. The following basic complete tabulation on population and households will be postponed for 2 months, from September to November 2021. Although the postponement of the provision of survey results causes inconvenience to the users of the statistics, it was decided based on the belief that it is most important to securely conduct the survey and maintain and improve the accuracy of the results. Please take a look at slide 13. As explained so far, although some measures that were originally not scheduled were taken for this year's survey, as for the response status as of November 20, the number of responses via both the internet and mail exceeded the results of the 2015 survey. The response rate via the internet increased by 2.6 percentage points. The response rate via mail increased by 10.0 percentage points. As a result, the total response rate of the internet and mail increased by 12.6 percentage points from 71.0% to 83.6%. Please take a look at slide 14. This shows the comparison of daily changes in the response status via the internet and mail with that of the 2015 survey. Due to the change of survey method explained in slide 6, the response rate remained lower than the 2015 survey at the beginning. However, the ratio reversed thereafter, resulting in a response rate as of November 20 higher by 12.6 percentage points compared to 2015's final result. Because the situation and of the remaining method, namely collection by enumerators, will be compiled hereafter, the final situation cannot be determined. However, we believe this is not bad, considering the fact that the survey was conducted in spite of the impact of COVID-19. We would like to examine the experiences and effects of various efforts for this survey in the future to achieve further improvements in the next survey. This is the end of my explanation on the outline and current status of the population census for round 2020 in Japan and the details of measures taken against COVID-19. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Sekido, for a nice presentation and on the status of Census 2020 in Japan. So it indicates that your presentation indicates that the response through online mode and through mails and posts is increasing day by day. So it hints that the future of census is collection of data through online mode, more and more online mode, and the COVID impact has also helped us in moving towards from face-to-face contact towards the uh, online mode for data collection. So now the question session starts, uh, and the first I will request Chia to take up the questions. Should I repeat the questions, or you have read the questions asked by the uh, by the by the listeners? So may I ask the question? Yeah. One question was how the admin data is used for consistency checking. So Ms. Chia, you can answer it.
Okay, so for administrative data, I think they asked the question whether we use some kind of national identification number. So we do use a unique identification number, which all Singapore residents or foreigners residing in Singapore should have. So the matching is done based on the unique identification number.
So one question was whether there is any incentives given to those respondents who respond through self-enumeration.
For incentive wise, we actually gave, when we sent out the notification packages to the selected households, in the package there was a notification letter, an information pamphlet, and also 2 coasters. So the coasters were meant to be souvenirs to the selected households. So other than the coasters, we do not have any other incentives for the survey.
There was one question on for telephonic survey, how many people were engaged? May I repeat, for telephonic survey, conducting telephonic survey, how many people were engaged?
Okay, so for Singapore, for the manpower for phone interview conduction, at our peak, we had 40 people employed for the phone interviews. So because we have 2 teams, because of the speed team arrangement, so it will be about 20 packs per team.
And one question was on the incorrect input by the respondent, particularly in the field of industry and occupation.
Okay, so for field of industry and occupation, because we allow respondents to select from the drop-down, and it will be automatically coded. So back end, we will also match with administrative records. And then there's also consistency checks. So if let's say there's any error, or any inconsistency flagged, or if the admin data does not match, then our data processing officers will look into it manually.
And the one last question was perhaps on you have in your presentation talked about something about machine learning, use of machine learning. So can you explain it?
So for machine learning, right, there's a machine learning team that is looking into records that were submitted for previous surveys. So there will also be job descriptions in the records, and there will be a final code that's assigned. So they will look into these 2 fields to come up with a framework. So for this round, we are using the framework for auto assignment.
So I don't think any more questions were there. So if you have read any other questions, can you answer?
Any other?
I think there was no further questions.
They asked whether we expected high results for non-face-to-face survey. So based on Census 2010, there were 38% that submitted via the internet, 46% submitted via the call center, and 60% via field interview. So we already expected an increase in the percentage for internet this year, but the increase was higher because we actually promoted internet submission because of COVID. So it's expected field work for this round is actually lower.
So thank you. No further questions from Jia. So I don't think there was any question from a speaker from Indonesia. If you have seen any questions, I could not see. You can say.
Yes, I think there is no question for Indonesia. Thank you very much. But I think from my presentation, I want to say that by pandemic, we're learning too much. So we must to design census more prepared by using the registration data like Singapore and Japan's do this. I think it's the concept of the methodology for the next our census. We will do like the Japan, Singapore for the best census in the future. Thank you, Mr. Sanjay.
Yes, thank you. So there is a few questions from Mr. Sekino. So the first question is, when the respondent is not available in the household and it is collected from the neighbors, so what are the difficulties in regard to incompleteness of information?
Yes. Finally, we use the basic resident register date to deal with the absentees.
Okay. There was another question regarding response mails missing during delivery. So have you faced any such things?
Pardon?
Yeah, the question was when there is a response is submitted through post, there is any from the delivery, during the delivery, any mails are missed.
In Japan, post system is very nice and there's no problem in delivery.
Okay. And the next question is whether you still planning to have census every 5 years or use of more and more administrative record.
As for the future plan, As for the future plan, we will consider about it based on the results of the 2020 census.
Okay. And the last question from you is, there are few more questions. It is on hearing investigation as one of survey methods of Japan. Is this an official method or?
Yes, it's official.
Okay, sir. So, is it data if submitted, collected from the not actual respondent but from the neighbors, that is acceptable? So there is no problem in accepting those records if collected from the neighbors. Because in India, generally the respondent's signatures are taken when collecting the information. Do you have anything to say, Mr. Sekino?
Pardon, one more time.
Yeah. I am saying just in India, the respondent's signature is obtained on the question when collected on paper. So if you are not collecting directly from the respondent but from its neighbors, that response is accepted. So there is no problem in accepting the details submitted by the neighbors. That is the question.
直接じゃなくて隣人から回答を受け取ることについて問題はないのか。
No problem. And it is no problem in Japan.
Okay. So thank you all. For Indonesia, there is a very nice compliment. Their presentation was very good, and how the adjustments were made during the pandemic was a very well accepted thing. So thank you all the speakers for a nice presentation and very learning experience for me. It was my pleasure to moderate these sessions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for your attention and participation into session 2. Huge thanks go to chair and the panelists of session 2. This concludes day 1 of the 30th Population Census Conference. The conference will resume tomorrow at the same time as today, that is 9:30 a.m. in Ulaanbaatar, 10:30 a.m. in Korea, 8:30 a.m. in Hanoi, 11:30 a.m. in Port Moresby, 5:30 a.m. in Baku, 4:30 a.m. in Addis Ababa, 8:30 p.m. in New York, and 9:30 p.m. in La Paz. We highly appreciate your attendance to this conference despite time difference and inconvenience of schedule, and hope to see you all tomorrow. Thank you very much.